In business, there's no room for guesswork. Every shipment matters. Every deadline counts. When you're trying to keep operations running smoothly, the last thing you need is uncertainty. That's why reliability is at the core of USPS Ground Advantage. From the moment your package is first scanned in, it moves through a secure nationwide network, aiding in a timely and accurate delivery. You get near real-time tracking so you can keep up with your shipments. And with affordable upfront pricing, there are no hidden fees or surprise surcharges to throw off your cost sheets. It all adds up to predictable deliveries you can depend on. Because knowing your logistics are handled lets you focus on everything else: your customers, your team, and the future you're building. Visit USPS.com/Ground Advantage to start shipping with confidence. USPS, official shipping sponsor of the NHL.
This is Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Lookout weekend, we're cruising on a Friday edition of Money Moves live on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, SiriusXM Channel 158, iHeartRadio, YouTube TV, the VSiN Watch app. Wherever you're watching or listening, we appreciate you hanging out with us today. I'm Stormy Buonantony, alongside John Jastrzemski, in for our guy JVT. And even though, JJ, you're an East Coast guy, I appreciate you, giving the Western Conference Finals the time of day today in both the NBA and NHL. We got to cover it. I'm sorry.
Come on, Stormy. I am a professional. That is what I do. I understand that I have my New York loyalties, and I sound very much like a New Yorker. I don't think you're going to mistake my accent for being from the Midwest or being out in California or whatnot. But come on, it's Wemby and OKC. Like, I can't wait to bet this game. I have a strong take that you're going to hear in Best Bets a little bit later on. Come on, par for the course. Stormy, I'm disappointed. I guess you lowered your expectations a little bit too much of me, I'm
proud of you, and I told you this in a commercial break earlier. I'm still surprised that you didn't have the Knicks hat on today. I mean, of all days, coming off the dub at Madison Square Garden, you were there. You told me the vibes were immaculate, and then no Knicks hat today. I don't even know you anymore.
Stormy, you know this. You're a television gal. I'm about to go do TV in a couple hours on SNY, the home of the Mets. If I wear the hat and then I got to go and get into the city and, I don't have the Travolta flow, but, I got to make sure it's, firing on all cylinders so I don't look terrible in about 2 hours. So I made sure the hair was, solid for our VSiN hit. So for the viewers that are watching on the app or on YouTube TV, wherever you get your VSiN content, no Nick hat for your boy.
I love that you're getting ahead of it, though. And the hair does look fresh today. I'll give you that. It looks good.
Thank you. I'll give it a B.
To come this hour, very excited. We're going to have Stanley Cup champ TJ Oshie join us in about 15 minutes, get his thoughts on everything that has transpired in the NHL to this point. Obviously, a massive win last night for Montreal in Raleigh. How much can we just chalk that up to the rust factor for Carolina? We'll get his opinion on that, as well as previewing the game tonight between the Vegas Golden Knights and Colorado Avalanche, as the Avs find themselves down 1-0 in that series as well. We'll also talk plenty of NBA as VSiN senior editor Zach Cohen joins the program. I know he's got a couple props that he really likes for this one coming up tonight. But there's a couple NFL items I want to get into here real quickly with you, JJ. One of which being just something kind of funny that we came across on the timeline earlier today. Apparently, the top 10 NFL best cities have come out, according to USA Today. And producer Justin, by the way, absolutely ecstatic about the top of this list, as he is a Philly guy. He sees the Eagles at number 1 in Philadelphia. He's thrilled. But then, you start going down the list. 2 Buffalo, 3 Green Bay, 4 Pittsburgh. Makes sense, right? Kansas City, the success that they've had in recent history. Okay. Number 6, Miami? The list had a lot of credibility, and then it lost me there at 6.
No question. And Stormy, you're talking to somebody that roots for the Miami Dolphins. I think Dan Marino is somewhere behind me in the backdrop as we speak.
I see it.
Come on, Miami. Miami is a terrible sports city. Maybe during the era of Don Shula and Dan Marino in the 1980s, it might have been a different vibe as Al Pacino is filming Scarface. The Dolphins got the longest playoff win drought in professional sports, 24 years, 25 years and counting. And it's always a city that is infiltrated by opposing fans. It's not necessarily Miami's fault because it's a great place to travel. Vegas runs in to the same sort of problems when your team is on the road. But you see some of these cities, like the passion in Buffalo and Western New York is off the rails. Green Bay, which by the way would have been my number one choice. Sorry, Justin. Just the negativity at times in Philadelphia. And I know, listen, New Yorkers are negative as well, but I would have docked that for Philly. Maybe would have put him second or third on the list. Green Bay is just this happy-go-lucky unifying place. Lambeau Field. Yeah, that list, Buffalo, fine with. Green Bay, fine with. Philly in the top 3, fine with. Pittsburgh and Kansas City got to be there. But Minnesota is a much better football town than Miami. Dallas. I don't love Dallas there either, to be honest.
How is New
I know
Orleans
the Cowboys
not
are
on this
America's
list?
team. Stormy, you ever watch a Cowboy game? That place is 30 or 40% filled with opposing fans. I'm going through this list off the top of my head. I would say Baltimore is a better football town than Dallas and Miami. That's one I would add. Just thinking about this without totally doing all of my research and prep work. Denver's a pretty good football town too.
I mean, there's so many answers that are not Miami. Also, burying the lead here, you're a Miami Dolphins fan. That doesn't check out. We just talked about all of your New York allegiances and your accent, and then we go Miami Dolphins are my favorite team. How'd that happen?
Well, Stormy, I'm full of surprises. What can I say? How did it happen? Well, I'm a child of the 90s, and the Jets were absolutely atrocious with Kotite, Boomer Esiason, mid-90s. I'm coming of age, becoming a football fan. My dad was a Jet fan. I said, hard pass, not for me. And the Giants, this was post-LT, Phil Simms, and before, obviously, they got good. First with Kerry Collins, and then, of course, with Eli, where they win the Super Bowls. The Giants are the most boring team on planet Earth in the mid-90s. And I had the cool starter jacket, Dan Marino, Ace Ventura, cool uniforms. I was in. I was sold. And Stormy, it just brought me a whole lot of misery, pain, and suffering along the way.
Laces out, Dan. Well, actually,
Yes.
I do. It's a good story and it makes sense. And I do actually want to talk about the Giants here for a second as well. As by the way, you say you're going to SNY. Obviously, the Giants covered there pretty thoroughly as well. But we've gotten a lot of news that have come out in the last 24 hours around this team. First, one of the more controversial GMs, I think it's fair to say, in the league, and Joe Schoen. He gets a multi-year contract extension. Then we get some suspect news, hypothetically, on Malik Neighbors and his injury progression. And now this morning, a blow to the Giants' interior defensive line, veteran D lineman Roy Robertson Harris, who started all 17 games last year, tore his Achilles and now is going to miss the rest of the season in an offseason that I feel like was filled with a lot of optimism about and around the Giants, especially with the way that they came out of this draft. How frustrating was some of that news this morning?
All right, there's a lot to break down there. I'll start first with Joe Schoen. I know there's a perception of surprise because of what his record as GM has been, that he's getting extended. But I'm not surprised because he has completely bought in to what his new boss is bringing to the table. And what do I mean by that? Well, despite the fact that Joe Schoen is the GM of the team, the guy who is basically in charge of the roster and is pulling the strings when it comes to everything that's going on with the football team is John Harbaugh. And if he was going to clash with Harbaugh, then there wouldn't be a working relationship and he would have been let go and they would have made that official right after the draft. But because everything is simpatico and Joe Schoen is getting on board, Stormy, he gets to stick around and he gets to be a part of the process. But his power is nowhere to what it was maybe a year or two ago. So that's number one. Two, I'm very worried about Neighbors. Why am I worried about Neighbors? He never plays. He's super talented. If he plays 16 or 17 games, he will be a top 5 receiver in the NFL. He'll score double-digit touchdowns. He'll go for 1,500 yards. He misses too much time. It's a problem. It's why the Giants had to go and upgrade the wide receiver position. They did, but you can't replace Malik Neighbors. And that D-line is a problem. Not necessarily their ends, because they have guys who can get after the quarterback. When I say D-line, I mean the interior of the D-line, because you lose Dexter Lawrence. You didn't properly replace him. And now that is going to be where teams go to work against the Giants. You got a good pass rush. How do you neutralize that? You run the football. There's a team in Philadelphia that does a pretty good job of that you got to go beat twice. And, take on the Giants, Stormy, I don't know where you stand on this. I think they'll be improved. I think they'll be spunky. I think the coaching is probably worth a couple of extra wins. But I think there are folks making the stretch and the parallel to last year's New England Patriots. second-year quarterback, established head coach. I am not of the mindset that the Giants now are going to have some sort of Patriot-like seismic rise to the top of the NFC. I think they're a 7-8 win team. I'll still have them behind Dallas, who I like to win the NFC East, and Philadelphia.
Also, by the way, when you make the comment of how well the Eagles run the ball, part of the reason why people hate Joe Schoen so much is that they let Saquon Barkley walk in the division to the Eagles, who win a Super Bowl on Barkley's back, and he made the decision to keep Daniel Jones over Barkley, which how's that going to age? We'll see. And Dexter Lawrence, part of the reason he wanted out had to do with, rumors of his relationship with Joe Schoen as well as a part of that. So you mentioned much improved. They're a 4-win team, obviously, last year. The win total for this year is just 7.5. So do you think they can double that up with the new coach and the way that they're thinking things can trend up?
I do. I think that total, though, from our friends here at Circa is super spot on. That is not one of my favorite totals because the division's really good. I mean, Philadelphia still has a ton of talent. I think Dallas has improved their defense. Full year of Quinn Williams, adding Caleb Downs in the draft. Dallas, to me, is a team. I'm betting them over. I'm across the board. I love them. And Washington's a great unknown because how many games is Jaden Daniels going to play? Is he the guy he was 2 years ago when they went to the NFC title game? Or is it last year where he's on and off the field? So I think Washington finishes in last. I think the Giants are a third-place team. I lean over, but I'm not going to lie to you, Stormy. I don't love it.
I don't have it in front of me right now, but if you think they're a third-place team on DraftKings and FanDuel and some of those other markets, you can find the exact order of the division finishing position if that's something that intrigues you. In terms of those NFC East numbers off the top, the Eagles are your favorite at +110, Philly +235, Commanders 5-1, and then the Giants, your long shot, but not much longer than Washington, sitting at 6-1. Okay, we are going to step aside here once more on Money Moves here. When we come back, very excited to have TJ Oshie join the program. Longtime NHL vet, won a Stanley Cup with the Washington Capitals. His reaction to what we saw last night and looking ahead to tonight in Colorado. The Vegas Golden Knights stole Game 1. How will they come back in Game 2? Game 2s have not gone well for the VGK so far this postseason. We will be right back. More Money Moves coming up after this.
So you're listening to this podcast because you want an edge. But what if I told you you're only halfway there? You've got the mindset. Now it's time to get the toolkit to match. Here's the thing. Pro bettors spend thousands on data and tools. But what they don't want you to know is that you can get the same edge for a fraction of the cost with VSiN Pro. VSiN Pro gives you access to expert picks, public betting data, prop projections, powerful tools, analytics, and more. Just tap the link in the description and see why thousands of bettors are already using VSiN Pro to cash more bets.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Safe to say, fans in Raleigh, North Carolina are losing their minds this morning as we welcome you back in to Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, Sirius XM Channel 158, alongside John Jastrzemski, Stormy Buonantony with you. And I keep saying morning, but it's the afternoon everywhere in the country, even where I am here in Vegas. So I got to get on board with the time zones here. Excited to have TJ Oshie join us on the Progressive guest line. Stanley Cup champ with the Washington Capitals, played 16 years in the league with the Caps and Blues. Team USA Olympic legend, by the way, the shootout king himself. TJ, thank you for joining us, especially now that you're slumming it with us in the broadcast world, crushing it at ESPN, by the way, my friend. How are you today?
Thank you. What an intro that was. I needed you to just come around when I just enter a restaurant or something and have you give me that intro. It's great. Yeah, no, I'm excited to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
See, I'll make a recording for you. Just bring it in. Some people for baseball, you've got the walkout music. You'll just have the Stormy recording. There you go. Let's get into first and foremost, what in the world we saw last night. How much can we chalk up the performance from the Canes to having so much time off, especially I think about Freddie Anderson and net and how important it is for a goalie sometimes to be in rhythm. How much was that a one-off versus what we can expect moving forward in this series?
I I wouldn't expect anyone, even Carolina necessarily, to have any type of excuses in playoffs. I think, especially when you get to the conference finals, you know what playoffs are about. There's ups and downs, ebbs and flows. There's injuries. There's time off or not time off. I don't think you can really chalk anything up to necessarily like the rest. Freddie Anderson, maybe timing thing a little bit. But if anything, when I watched the game, it was just Carolina playing their normal Carolina style. But a couple of those really aggressive moments, especially like through the neutral zone, D-man, a weak side D-man kind of stepping up at the red line in front of his partner, opening up breakaways. That's just kind of their aggressiveness against Montreal's skill and speed. So that aggressiveness works really well when you're able to get the puck stopped. And it feels like I've played against Carolina when they're like that. You feel like there's 10 guys on the ice. You feel like you can't do anything. But when you do make that nice slip play through someone's legs or over a stick for a breakaway and you capitalize on that, all of a sudden that aggressiveness kind of doesn't necessarily work in your favor. So I think you just saw Montreal capitalizing on those aggressive moments and making really good plays.
TJ, I'm a New York guy, so I remember when John Tortorella was coaching the New York Rangers, and I know this happens a ton in the sport, but to come to a team at the end of the year, leave your mark, now you're in the conference finals, you're up 1-0 on the Avalanche. What is it about John Tortorella when he comes to these teams? He just basically snaps a finger, whips them into shape. What is it? Magic touch? Is it accountability? What has made him so successful in these sort of spots?
Well, Torres has been in so many different situations, young teams, old teams, teams that go far, teams that don't make the playoffs. He has so much learning experience with how to handle players. And one thing that I love about Torres is how honest he is, how much he cares about the players. And because of how much he cares about them, he's brutally honest with them of what he expects. And if they do this, they will have success. They will play more. If they don't, that's when you see, and a lot of it's fans and media kind of blowing things out of proportion. That's when you see some players that can't really handle that pressure or maybe can't change their game a little bit the way he wants. And they mentally, they can't keep up and their game seems like it slips a little bit. But Tort sliding into Vegas, this is a team that is ready to win, right? They weren't playing quite up to their potential. And Torres has this unbelievable ability to know when to step in, when to step out, when to lean on older guys to kind of grab a room or take control and kind of get out of the way, but also when they get off track a little bit, when to step in and use that, that very direct, straightforward truth to the team about what's wrong and what needs to get fixed. I don't want to get too long-winded on Torres. I absolutely love him. I had him in the World Cup, and he ran a couple meetings, and this is the World Cup, so Team USA, all the best American-born players or the right players for what he saw and the team saw to make the team and try to win the tournament, which we didn't do very good. But the way he ran the meetings and just his brutal honesty on some of the best players in the world of their games and the mistakes they were making, I was like, wow, that's really like just an amazing thing to hear, that he is in a way of like calling guys out for what they're doing, but also making them feel good that he knows that they can play better and they can make the right decisions. So I just have all the respect in the world for Torres. One of those guys that I wish I would have been able to play on a full 82 game season with him.
Yeah, he's a big accountability guy, that's for sure. And I love how you described kind of how he's developed his relationship with the team. He's described himself as a guidance counselor at times, that he will step in and guide when he needs to guide or just get out of the way when he needs to get out of the way. Obviously, Vegas gets the Game 1 win in Colorado. We find out this morning, still no Mark Stone, still no Cale Makar either for this game. How big of an impact is that for the Avalanche as they try to rebound tonight? And do you think that the Avs rebound tonight on home ice?
I think it's going to be very difficult without Makar to rebound just because of how big of a presence he is on the blue line. But Colorado is a phenomenal team, and losing that, your game just has to shift a little bit. And throughout any playoff series, you're going to make little minor tweaks to how you have to play the game. Cale Makar is very good at almost breaking the puck out himself, where forwards don't necessarily have to worry too much when he gets the puck about getting into a different defensive position or being super supportive. They can more so keep their speed, and sometimes that's why Colorado looks so incredibly fast, because their forwards aren't spending so much energy on just trying to help get the puck out. They can set their skating, get moving up the ice, and it's like they're coming at you 1,000 miles an hour. So that's one of the areas that they're going to have to tweak a little bit. Guys, forwards are going to have to do a little bit better job of supporting, helping getting pucks out. And so it's a tough one. They're really going to have to adjust as a team because of how many minutes Cale Makar plays. And if they make that adjustment, they'll be right there. But it is a massive hole and an incredible opportunity for Vegas with all the momentum on their side to try to sneak away with 2 wins in Colorado.
TJ, you mentioned momentum, and you see it a lot in these 0-1 spots. Everybody's expecting the home team to go and bounce back and even the series. And look, you love playing on home ice. You love the crowd support. Those crowds can get tense. When you're down in a series, then all of a sudden you give up the first goal. There's this gas. There's this tense energy throughout the building. Am I crazy to say, maybe as a player perspective, you block all of that out? But can the crowd in a way work against you there if you fall behind because you can kind of feel that angst, or is that a whole lot to do about nothing?
So I actually love this question because the only thing, in my opinion, that it has to do with is the team's belief in if what they do, of how they play the game, and if they do it longer than the other team, that they're going to win the series. And so I've had years where we thought we knew we were really good, but necessarily the belief and the buy-in wasn't through the entire team. And so those moments, like you mentioned, down in the series, let up a goal early, guys got deflated. And if you don't have everyone rolling in playoffs, like you're usually not going to win a series. You're definitely not going to win a conference finals. And that was the difference between our 2018 team when we won, was no matter what happened, we didn't change our game. We didn't get up on the bench. We didn't get down on the bench. It really didn't matter. We were set that we were going to play a certain style of game. We're all going to do it together. And no matter what happens, we're okay losing that way. But we believe that if we play that way, that other teams by the end of a series won't be able to stay with us. So I don't necessarily think that the fans, whether they're up or down, have really much to do with it. I think it all comes to the belief in each other with the guys in the room. And that's another reason why I love Torts. Is he's like, this is their team. We just coach, they play, they deserve all the credit. So if the guys have that belief, say in Carolina, say they let up one early, they're about as bought in, I think, as any team left of the remaining 4, I think, in their style of play. I don't think that's an early goal out of like Montreal saying game 2. I don't think is necessarily going to deflate them as much as maybe we would think.
TJ, we've only got 30 seconds left with you, but at this point, who is your pick to win it all in the Stanley Cup?
I still have Colorado.
Okay.
I'm gonna stick with them. I think Makar's coming back. I think they're just built to win the Cup this year. But I have a lot of teams that I did not even think were going to make it this far that are really surprising me and winning me over.
Thank you for giving us the time today, TJ. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
TJ
Thanks,
Oshie,
TJ.
everybody, doing great work over at ESPN as a studio and game analyst, but of course a Stanley Cup champ, unbelievable career in the National Hockey League, his insight unparalleled. We got to step aside here on Money Moves. When we come back, shifting gears, we're going to dive back into the NBA. The Western Conference Final rolls on, but today in hoops, so we'll be right back with Zach Cohen to discuss in a moment.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
20 leagues, one mission, just Just Win Bets Baby is your premier source for daily sports betting picks. They're breaking down the data so you can bet with confidence across the entire sports calendar. No better time than right now with the NBA and NHL postseasons rolling on. If you're watching on YouTube TV or the VSiN Watch app, scan that QR code on your screen, or you can head over to justwinbetsbaby.com and start betting smarter with us today. Just Win Bets Baby, the name says it all. Stormy Buonantony and John Jastrzemski with you back here on this Friday edition of Money Moves. Getting back into the NBA as the Western Conference Final rolls on tonight between the Thunder and Spurs. Zach Cohen joins us now on the Progressive Guest Line. VSiN senior editor, of course, host of the Hardwood Handicappers podcast as well here on VSiN, one of our top NBA analysts. Zach, before we dive into tonight, though, I do want to get some of your reaction from what we saw yesterday as the Knicks now go up 2-0 in this series. We're shifting to Cleveland coming up over the weekend. Can a change of scenery potentially do the Cavs some good, you think?
Yeah, I'd like to think it will. I was, a backer of this being a long series, so I'm hoping to see Cleveland win these next 2 games at home. Then we're done. But I do think this Cavaliers team has really been lacking like the type of urgency you need to have in a postseason setting. I think in game 1, we obviously saw them take their foot off the gas and allow, Jalen Brunson to do whatever he wanted in the final 7 minutes of that game. And then in game 2, the way they were defending Brunson, I don't hate it, but the rotations were weak. Everybody was kind of slow getting to, closeouts and everything like that. They need to play with more energy on the defensive end, and they need to be a little bit sharper offensively as well.
So, Zach, we're on opposite ends of this one because I thought this be a quick, easy series for the Knicks. I just saw a lot of matchup nightmares for Cleveland as far as guarding Jalen Brunson, as far as the soft nature of the Cleveland bigs. And now this series shifts, and I totally get why the quote-unquote professional sharp money is going to go and take the Cavaliers. Line went from 1.5 to 2.5. Knicks due to lose a game. Cleveland's been much better at home. But these matchups, what's changing for Cleveland? So paint the picture for me. If Cleveland is going to get back into this series, what has to look much different come Saturday night?
The defensive energy has to be better, and I would assume that would be a little bit better at home. But overall, the shot making has to be better. I think that this team is much better than we've seen offensively throughout this series. But yeah, I think that it's really just hoping that the home court energy gives them a little something. I mean, I was watching, I believe, like Kendrick Perkins earlier, who not a big fan of the way he analyzes the game, but he was right about one thing, and that's like Jalen Brunson was beating the Cavaliers up the floor on fast breaks. He looked like more explosive than these Cavaliers guards, and that's just not the case. I think this team has been playing really, really lazy. I think that they just not believed in themselves. I think that losing the way they did in game 1 definitely hurt. But I think that there are some things that they can do in game 3 to kind of get back on track. It starts with the shot making, like I just said. I would like to see some more Keon Ellis. I don't really want to see much of Sam Merrill. If he's not making his shots defensively, he absolutely kills that team. And Ellis is a player that does foul a lot, but good 3-and-D player. He's going to be someone that can bring some defensive intensity. And I think that Max Strus can play a lot better than he did in game 2. He was one of the guys that I thought was really disappointing.
And you have to imagine, just as a team going back home down 0-2, sense of urgency is certainly going to be there. 2.5, that current spread right now in favor of the Cavs. Total 213.5 as Zach Cohen joins us here on the Progressive Guest Line. Let's dive into tonight. OKC getting points. You don't hear that very often. 1.5-point dogs in San Antonio. The Spurs have largely had OKC's number throughout the course of the regular season. Obviously, they steal game 1 on the road. But now the injury bug kind of creeping up a little bit here. What is the latest from your perspective on Dylan Harper and Jalen Williams on the other side as well, too, but how this looks for San Antonio now as their depth is getting tested?
Yeah, well, you're seeing a lot of gamesmanship from both teams because all of these guys are listed as questionable, but I don't really think there's any chance we see Jalen Williams tonight. And I think that Dylan Harper is also going to miss this game. So I'm doing a lot of the thing that you're not supposed to do, and I'm assuming a lot, but it did look like Williams' injury was, pretty bad for a guy that just came back from a hamstring injury. Like, I would be shocked if he plays tonight, just given how important he is to them and the future of this postseason. So I don't think we're going to see Williams. Harper it's a completely different injury, like listed than what we thought we saw last night. I think we all thought that was going to be a hamstring injury. It was listed as an adductor injury that they saw on the MRI. So if they actually saw something on the MRI that like stood out to them, I'd be surprised if he's out there. And I do think if both those guys miss this game, it hurts the Spurs more than it hurts the Thunder. I think Jalen Williams is a better player than Dylan Harper right now, but OKC just knows exactly how to play without J-Dub. Like they've done it so much throughout the course of this season and throughout these playoffs where, they started off this postseason winning 8 straight games. AJ Mitchell can take on a bigger role. Cason Wallace can do the same. And Alex Caruso, if he continues to shoot the ball well, he'll fill in admirably. For San Antonio, if you don't have Harper's ability to attack downhill, that just takes away so much of what you can do offensively, especially with Fox seemingly actually banged up. And I think Fox is going to go tonight. I have some Fox overs on player props, but I don't think he's going to look as explosive as usual.
So the turnovers, I think, going to be incredibly problematic for San Antonio. We saw that in Game 2. I'm not going to be surprised if we see it in Game 3. It's interesting, you're in on the De'Aaron Fox props. I want to throw this guy at you. Vassell, however we're saying his last name. I butcher last names like there's nobody's freaking business, so I'm used to it. If I have a tough last name, I'm allowed. The point being is he's been an assassin. As someone that had Oklahoma City laying 6.5, 7.5, how many times did he come down the court and hit a big three after big three after big three? He's playing with confidence. He's back on his home floor. 15-plus points, dare I say 20-plus points. You see a world, Zach, where it's another big game for the sharpshooter?
Yeah, I was actually looking at Vassell. I thought that maybe 3-point props also. Like, this is just a guy that has been getting really quality looks throughout the course of this series, even with how, well Oklahoma City defends the perimeter. I do think that that's worth a look. So that's a good shot by you. The reason I kind of gravitated to Fox, to be honest, is there were some stale numbers or just numbers that looked really off when kind of looking at prediction markets versus where the traditional sports books have it. I was able to get plus money on Fox to go over 4.5 assists, and you could still do the same at Polymarket compared to what you're seeing at traditional sports books. So Fox is a player that not sure I would have been looking there to begin with, but if I can get plus money on him to have 14 plus points and for him to have 4.5 assists over on that, I think that you just have to take it given what we've seen in the postseason. He's scored 14 plus in 10 of the 11 games he's played. He's averaging 5.8 assists per game. We're pretty much just asking him to do something that he's done with regularity throughout these playoffs.
I know you mentioned a 3-point prop look. There is one guy that you have dove into that market on for this game. Who you got?
Yeah, I took Cason Wallace over 1.5 made threes again. Plus 130 was the number I posted it at last night. It was still like plus 128 when I recorded Hardwood Handicappers this morning. Wallace is just one of the guys that I think has earned the trust of Mark Daigneault in this series. He's such a good perimeter defender. He's very good offensively for a guy that really doesn't need the ball that often. And he's coming off a game where he knocked down 4 threes. Don't really expect him to do that again, but he has made at least 2 threes in 4 of the last 5 games, and he's shooting like 47% from beyond the arc in this postseason. So this is a guy that can take advantage of clean looks, and kind of like Vassell, it really seems like he's only taking good looks in this offense just because of how much of an afterthought he is when you kind of break down the scouting report for the opposing team.
Zach, after Game 1, I grabbed Oklahoma City to win the series at even money. I bet Oklahoma City in Game 2. Newsflash, I'll be taking them again in Game 3. Not many opportunities to get SGA and this loaded roster as an underdog. Game 3, gut, Spurs, Thunder. Who you got?
I think the Thunder are going to win tonight. Like, I think that the injury stuff really does play into Oklahoma City's hands. If I have one thing I'm worried about, it's the officiating. I thought that Isaiah Hartenstein got away with a lot in Game 2. Like, he did a really good job on both ends of the floor in that battle with Victor Wembanyama. We did not see Wemby dominate in Game 2 the way he did in Game 1. And I think a lot of that had to do with kind of the hooking, the holding, all of it from Hartenstein. It was very physical with him. I'm a little nervous about him getting a poor whistle in San Antonio. But if he doesn't, if he's able to play a decent amount of this game, I think OKC finds a way to win tonight.
To that end, yeah, when Femi was filling in for JVT yesterday, he was talking about how, like, there's a concern that officiating is going to end up playing a role one way or another in this series. So what's it look like? Zach, appreciate the time. Thank you so much. Enjoy the game tonight.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Good luck.
And everybody, make sure, too, if you joined us late there, Zach's got a great article up right now at vsin.com, also hosting the Hardwood Handicappers podcast. But if you're a full-time pro subscriber here on VSiN, you're not going to get shortchanged with just the 1 or 2 free articles as you're going through all of the content at vsin.com. You get unlimited access to everything, which includes the picks page, the betting splits for DraftKings and Circa, all of our live video and replays, plus the betting guides as they come out. We've got a special going on right now. Use our promo code PRO. PRO. You're getting 14 months for $199. It's usually $240 for 12 months. So get in there while you can. vsin.com/subscribe. Check out all of the great stuff. We got best bets coming at you next year as we close out this Friday edition of Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Today's the day. You know, we talk all the time about how football is 24/7, 365, but it really is. And today, Circa's 2026 football contests are officially open to play. And you don't have to live in Las Vegas, by the way. You are required to register in person. But once you do, Winner Circle Proxy can handle everything the rest of the way for you, covering the weekly submissions so you can make your picks from anywhere in the country. They will have your back. They are VSiN's preferred proxy service. One trip to Vegas. Play all season long from anywhere. Schedule your appointment today at winnercircleproxy.com. And we've seen everybody back here at the book here at Circa as we welcome you back to Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Stormy Buonantony and John Jastrzemski with you. But I was laughing, JJ, earlier when you made the comment to Mike Palm, great VP of Operations here at Circa, that like you make your annual donation. You'll be coming out here to Vegas as part of this to get it going. You'll have a proxy the whole bit.
The whole deal. I've been in the contest, I want to say, each of the last 4 years. And it's always a question of, Stormy, when am I going to plan the trip? Do I go that Thursday before the football season? I like coming out, watching the opening game, and then being a psychopath and getting on the red eye right afterwards. That's usually my Vegas vibe because, like, there's no proper way to do this. You travel a ton. You probably have had to make East Coast flights or West Coast. I'm just like, hey, I'm in Vegas 48 hours, 72 hours. I'm having a blast. I'm at the book. I'm at the craps tables. I'm winning and losing bets. Just get me on the plane and take me to jail. That's the way I look at it. Let's just go. So that's awesome. What I will be doing at some point in September.
Hard to beat. And by the way, like, you are such good evidentiary support of, we talk every year about how the contests, yes, they open now, but it's so long before we actually have those first games of the NFL season that Mike Palm and Derek Stevens, the owner here at Circa, they always talk about the influx of entries that they get in that final week and the final days leading up to week 1 of the NFL season. So you're one of those people. You come out here at the very end, right before we get it going.
Well, Stormy, I mean, sure, right? At the end of the day, if you're in right before the start of the year, you sign up in June or July, it all counts the same. I just want to be able to cash. Forget about winning. I'm not even going to have that sort of pipe dream. I just hope one of these years I can find myself getting money at the end of this thing. And I know it can be done because one of my best friends pulled it off the first year we were in the contest. He beat me out by a little bit, and he had a little extra loot at the JJ Bachelor party in 2023. So good for him.
Oh, I'm here for it. That's awesome. It is funny, though, because on the surface, it seems so simple, right? It's Circa Survivor. All you got to do is make one pick every week. That's all you have to do. Just pick one game. And then with Circa Millions, you think off the top of your head, okay, 5 games against the spread. That's not too hard. It's so hard. Every week is just, what am I going to do? Every decision feels like life and death. It's crazy, but that's what makes it so fun. And that's why I will for sure have multiple entries again, because I'm here for chaos. It is the last little bit of the show, JJ, so that means it's time for best bets. I know that you've told us a few times today you are rolling with the OKC Thunder, but give me your full deep dive breakdown why you like them so much today on the road.
So you're absolutely right about that, Stormy. I love the opportunity of getting points with the reigning champs, 1-1, pivotal game 3. And it seems like the consensus now in this series is that the betting public wants to go and line up and bet the San Antonio Spurs because they won game 1 in dramatic fashion. And even though they lost game 2, it was a very hard-fought game 2. It was back and forth. San Antonio really hung in nicely. And, hey, they're returning home. They're a small favorite. They're going to play off the home crowd. I don't see it that way. To me, Oklahoma City was able to unlock something defensively, enforcing a whole lot of San Antonio Spurs turnovers. And I don't know if the Spurs are necessarily going to be able to solve that. Harper a little bit beat up. I know it looks like Fox may play, but he hasn't played in a while. What kind of rust are we talking about? And this is the classic, hey, we've been there before type of spot. Oklahoma City has played in a whole lot of playoff games over the last couple of years. They played in a game 4 in Indiana where they were down 2-1. This is not quite the same desperation, but I think we're going to get a dialed-in Oklahoma City performance. I think we're going to get a big SGA night. I always have this theory, Stormy, when you're on the road and the role players in the NBA, they'll step up at home. You'll have the 7th guy on the team go for 20 points. They'll go and knock down 4 or 5 threes. But if you want to win on the road, you need your big dogs to eat. I think the big dog SGA is going to have a monster night. I'm taking OKC. I don't even think you're going to need the points. If you want to take them, take them. I'm taking them outright.
Ooh, money line. There we go. And it is worth noting, too, for SGA, especially how he started the series. And I know he had a couple wonky games, but the way he bounced back in game 2 and kind of regained that confidence to be able to do that, I would not be surprised if he doesn't carry that over into tonight, to your point. I don't have a bet on tonight's game. But boy, is it tempting, to your point, seeing OKC getting points. Because you just don't see it, especially not the way that they've performed in the postseason the last couple of years. You, after we are done here today, are also going to be heading over to SNY. As you said earlier, home of the Mets. You're going to be talking a lot of baseball today as well as they open up a 3-game set with the Marlins. One of your best plays, though, today involves this game. I'm surprised. You tell me. I was going to set it up in a way that sounded negative, and I don't want to. So you tell me what you got.
Well, no. That's fine. I'll gladly do so, Stormy. It's okay. And I hope that my New York audience is not going to be upset with me at this particular moment in time. But I'm taking the Miami Marlins. And Stormy, the Met fan is going to understand why I'm taking the Miami Marlins, because I've seen the Mets play this game in South Florida my entire life. I want to take everybody back to last year at the end of the regular season. The Mets needed a big weekend in Miami. If they would have won 2 out of 3 games, they would have found themselves in the postseason. They lost 2 out of 3. They lost the final game of the year. And the lasting image is the Mets with their crazy high payroll losing as the Marlins are celebrating like they won Game 7 of the World Series. Well, I think those vibes are going to continue on Friday night. I don't love the spot for the Mets. They just played a 4-game series against the Nationals, traveling down to South Florida, and the pitching staff is in absolute shambles. They're going with an opener in this game. Their bullpen had to go a ton on Thursday in the win against Washington. I don't think they're set up for success here, and the line is moving with the Miami Marlins. Mets were a small favorite when this line opened up. Now you're seeing the Marlins at minus 114. Might tick up even to like 120 when it's all said and done. Miami, the House of Horrors, continues. Sorry, Met fans. I'm taking the Marlins as best bet number 2.
I'm here for it. Just one play for me tonight, and it is on the ice as the Colorado Avalanche look to rebound against Vegas tonight in Game 2. And I think they do. I was looking at the way that this line has moved. Speaking of movement here, Colorado down from around like minus 190 favorites on the money line to minus 166 since we got the news that Cale Makar will no longer be playing. And I know you see the juice on your screen for the 60-minute line at minus 120. It's actually minus 105 right now for the Avs just to win this thing in regulation. And that's the way I would play it. I think they rebound. I think maybe a little bit too much to an extent has been made of the absence of Cale Makar. Not that it isn't massive. He is the best defensive player. He's the best defenseman in the world right now. And he plays in all areas of the ice, but I think now that they have a game under their belt, understanding what it is like not having him to be able to facilitate the offense and what he does on the back end, they'll adjust. They also had a massive layoff, not as many days off as the Carolina Hurricanes did, but it was still more than a full week that they were off of the ice. Jared Bednar talked about it after the game, not only the execution, but the lack of urgency, the lack of hunger that they came out with on home ice. They will adjust in that area as well. I find it very hard to believe that a team with this much talent and this much depth in a desperate spot at home is going to go down 0-2 in Colorado. So give me the Avs in regulation to get it done, and even this series at 1 before we head out to Vegas.
Stormy, I'm telling, I totally agree. My question for you, as the bona fide hockey expert that I'm working alongside, puck line at plus 142. Desperation spot for the Avalanche. Is this a margin victory, or am I not wise to mess around with plus 142?
I think it's absolutely in play because of the empty net situation at the end of the game. I don't know if they'll win by margin, and so that's kind of something that I struggle with, is banking on or not getting an empty netter at the end of the game. Colorado has been really good in that situation, though. When you force an opponent to have to pull their goalie to try to tie things up late in a game, Colorado takes advantage of that empty net more often than not, so I would not fault anybody for taking the plus 142.
Well, you know what I'm doing now. Family
All
parlay.
right, that's where
First
we're
show
going?
we've done together.
Let's-
Avalanche, Thunder, Marlins. Let's cash.
We're rolling. You know what? I'm going to throw that in when we get off the air, too. Let's freaking do it. JJ, it was awesome working with you. Let's do it again sometime, shall we?
Stormy, my pleasure. Keep up the great work, Rockstar, and keep everybody in line at the Circle, okay?
I'll try my best. No promises made, though. For JJ, for our producer, Justin Emery, and the whole crew behind the scenes, appreciate y'all hanging out with us so much. I'm Stormy Buonantony. Keep it locked right here, though. Follow the money coming up after this. Enjoy your day. Good luck with your bets, and have a great long weekend. Memorial Day weekend coming up.